my name's Naomi Farrelly, and it's my pleasure to present this next session in our Small Business Big Impact program. Today we are joined by Chris Daughtry of Sharp Electronics, who will be presenting a session on going paperless and what this means for your small business. As this is a pre-recorded session, Chris will be available to answer questions by using the chat function throughout the duration of the presentation. No need to wait until the end of the session. This recording will also be made available on this platform for another 3 months, should you wish to share with your clients and colleagues who weren't able to join us today. This session is proudly sponsored by Spark CoWork.
This is a very unusual format for me. I usually like to have a live audience in front of me. So yeah, I'm going to give this a try and see how we go. I'm Chris. I'm just going to quickly share this other screen with you. I'm Chris. And I am here to give you a bit of a rundown on what paperless looks like, or as I'd like to call it here, the paperless pipe dream, dream no more. A little bit of background on myself. I work at Sharp Electronics Group in Newcastle. I am the document solutions specialist, as that says right there on the screen. I've been in and around the print industry for 30 years. Yeah, it's been a lot of my life has been dedicated in and around print and print technology. I've spent a lot of time as an engineer out in the field. I've been in pre-sales. I'm now in sales, and yeah, I've been doing this for quite some time. So I'll give you a little bit of a look at what we're going to talk about quickly. What does paperless mean? Some stats and some facts and figures around going paperless, and all of the stuff that keeps us occupied in that area. Some of the advantages of going paperless, why it's a good idea, what it could actually save you in time and money and sanity, which is a good thing. What can you do to actually start down that road, because that's a big thing people have some trouble with, is actually working out what it is they need to do to get there, and what's actually stopping you from doing that. So as we move on to the next slide, what does paperless mean? It's one of those subjects that a lot of people hear out there in the world. It's been around since, I guess the 90s, when Adobe first developed the PDF. I'm sure everyone's heard of a PDF. It was developed for the sole purpose of trying to eliminate paper from the office forever and only have everything digital. The problem was, ever since then, the PDF has probably been responsible for more paper being printed, because now you had documents that are far more portable and easy to move around from space to space electronically, that it gave us the ability to actually print them easier because we had more access to them. So it started out with the greatest of intentions, but it didn't quite end up where it was supposed to. And yeah, it's been a dream since the early 90s to actually have a completely paperless office. And when I say the word paperless, it's a little bit of a furphy. I truly believe, look, there's a very small percentage of customers and companies who have actually been able to go 100% paperless. The better goal, I think, to have is to use less paper. So it's paperless, but just less paper. It's probably a better way to look at the approach. And if you feel like you can move towards a completely paperless environment, then more power to you. But at the end of the day, just using less paper is a great goal to start with. What does paperless mean in the office? It's the paperless thing started out with, I guess, in the office with mail. Bits of paper mail being sent around from company to company. That mail gets opened, it gets taken to the department. The first thing to go with that was email. So we've now transformed snail mail into email. We've turned encyclopedias and dictionaries into the internet. We've turned newspapers and magazines into websites. We've turned printed maps into GPS and navigators, Apple, Google Waze, all of that kind of stuff, all those navigatings. And contacts. Who has a Rolodex anymore? I'm pretty sure nobody. Has anyone out there got a Rolodex still? You probably shouldn't have a Rolodex still. We have electronic contacts for this now. And this is the thing, the last thing to go in the office has been the document, the printed piece of paper that lives in an inbox or on somebody's desks or in a folder or in a storage unit somewhere. That piece of paper has not left us yet. So that's kind of what we're here to talk about today. All documents, whether they be paper or electronic, have a workflow. And by that I mean they come in the front door, you receive them, they're tagged and bagged in some way. By that I mean, you get a sticky note you put on it, it goes into an office somewhere, it goes into a storage facility somewhere, it goes somewhere. It's then processed. The information on that piece of paper is used somewhere in the business. If it's an invoice, for example, line items, how much was it, who was the customer, that kind of stuff. That piece of paper then needs to get stored, and at some point in time, after compliance or there's a flood, that piece of paper gets disposed of or destroyed. So when we're talking about paperless, we're actually turning that whole workflow process of a document into a digital workflow instead. We just basically do all of that stuff electronically, and yeah, why would you need to hang on to paper anymore when we can do all this digitally? So let's have a look at a bit of a look at some of the stats around going paperless and what it actually looks like in the office at the moment. So as you can see from here, Australia-wide, companies spend more than $7.5 billion a year on printed forms. Let that sink in for a second. The whole of Australia every year spends $7.5 billion on printing forms and pieces of paper. There's a better way of doing things. That's costing everybody, your company, my company, everybody out there. This is costing money. 15% of an organization's revenues are spent creating, managing, and distributing documents. Again, that's a staggering amount of time to be spent on pushing a little piece of paper around from one end of the office to the other. 45% of paperwork generated ends up trashed by the end of the day. Why? Why is that? It makes no sense. You print that piece of paper out, you look at it once, and then you stick it in the recycling bin. Why? 12% of printed documents go unclaimed at the printer. And attached to that stat is the average office worker prints around 10,000 pages per year. So if you think about, if your average person in your office is printing 10,000 pages per year and 12% of those are just sitting at the printer and don't actually make it anywhere, that's a huge waste of paper, ink, time, and money. It's a big problem. This one's one of my favorites. I've shown this one to a few managers out there and it blows their mind because I'm just talking about managers here. You then multiply this by the amount of people that you have in your organization, and this is a really big problem. On average, manual administrative tasks performed by Australian managers consume 14 hours every working week. If you do a little bit of quick maths, that roughly equates to around about 96 days per year pushing manual tasks around on pieces of paper. Again, there are better ways to do this. What are some of the advantages of actually going paperless? What does it actually do for you, your company, the people that work with you, the people that you work with? How does this actually help? First and foremost, storage costs. Storage costs come in the form of the physical space in your office, filing cabinets, folders, compactors, all of that kind of stuff. That's a cost because you have to take up that real estate in your office with that storage space. Then on top of that, if you're actually storing this stuff outside in an external facility, say self-storage or a secure facility somewhere, that is costing you money, literally costing you money. Another big advantage is zero loss of documents. What if there's a flood? What if there's a fire? What if somebody comes in and steals all of your documents? That paper disappears forever and those records are gone. With a completely digital environment, you will never ever lose those documents. You will have them for as long as you need them, and they're accessible anywhere, anytime, on any device. Increased retrieval times. This is a huge one. Say you are looking for a specific invoice. You need to go out to find that invoice. Where is that? It's in the storage facility. You go to the storage facility, you have to look for the specific box, you have to look for the specific file. You bring that file back to the office, you give it to the person, and they turn around and say, no, that's the wrong one. Then that whole process has to be repeated again. What if that's actually happening between offices, between states, or if it's happening, even within, a regional area? Moving a document from one area to another physically can take time and money. Cut waste and your carbon footprint. This is a great one. The no-brainer here is if you're using less paper, you are saving trees, full stop. Not only are you saving trees, you're stopping the manufacture, you're helping stop or curb the manufacture of paper, which is a huge industry which uses a lot of water, a lot of resources. If you're printing less at your printer, you're using less toner, you're using less parts. There's a whole big saving to be made in that alone. So that for me is a pretty big one, and a good one to think about these days anyway. Increased document security. Again, pieces of paper can be seen very easily when they're laying around. They can be burned very easily. They can be lost very easily. They end up in a truck somewhere. That truck goes somewhere. That piece of paper goes missing. With an electronic solution, you have that piece of information anywhere, anytime, again, and it will never disappear. Reduce manual data entry. So in the modern age of document solutions, we have a lot of smarts wrapped around this kind of stuff now, where we can actually, instead of just scanning this piece of paper and putting it into a folder somewhere on a server, we can now scan that piece of paper, have it read the information on that piece of paper, and intelligently file it based on what is written on that piece of paper. Use the information that's on that piece of paper in a workflow somewhere. So, for example, in an accounts payable process, that's a very big time saver as far as manual data entry is concerned, and that bleeds into the next point: increase information accuracy and increase information efficiency. So instead of manually entering this data by hand and getting a number wrong here or there, or getting an ABN number wrong, or not, any kinds of combinations of problems that can happen from inaccurate data, the system can basically accurately pull the data out, inject it into a workflow, and save you a whole bunch of time and money on manual data entry. That is a very good thing. Tracking and version control. There is a tendency to have multiple copies of a page floating around in an office. You have this copy, you have that copy. Which one is the latest one? Who knows? If it's a piece of paper, you've literally got no idea. In an electronic world, I can tell you exactly which version is the latest one, because that's the only one that's living on the server wherever it's living. And I can tell you exactly when it was printed, not when it was printed, that was a faux pas. I can tell you when it was created, who last updated it, all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, that you can track and keep control of what version is the correct version very easily that way. And at the end of all of that, everything from above that line is about improving your customer's experience. The time that it takes to retrieve a document, the time that it takes to turn an accounts payable process around, the time it takes to save the amount of time you can save from doing no data entry and having it all done automatically. This all goes to the bottom line and turning things around as quickly as possible for your customers and also for your accounts. You can save money with discounts on time, all that kind of stuff. So that's the advantages. And as you can see, there's a lot of them. And again, that just scratches the surfaces on what the advantages are. Over time, you will save money over time. You will definitely save resources over time. You will be able to spend time doing more things with your brain than just sitting there and doing data entry. You can dedicate more time and energy into actually the parts of the business that mean more and are actually returning more than sitting down and doing manual data entry, pushing pieces of paper around the office. So what are the advantages? That's all of the advantages. What can you actually do to achieve going paperless? What are the things that you can do to actually achieve that? First and foremost, there's a little thing out there called print management software. What does that do? It gives you the ability to more efficiently manage what's being printed, where it's being printed, how much of it is being printed. It's a way of stopping that little stat that I mentioned before about 12% of print jobs going to a printer and never actually going anywhere. With print management software, you can have what's called follow me printing. It basically means when you print something, it doesn't print to the printer directly and immediately. It goes to a queue. You walk up to that printer. In fact, you can walk up to any printer in your fleet, put your special code in to let the printer know that it's you. And as soon as the printer knows that it's you, while you're standing there, it outputs that document. So a great advantage there is you print something, a phone call happens, you have to be called away for something, whatever the reason is, you can then be rest assured that that document has not been printed until you walk up to a machine and actually have it print for you while you're standing there. That reduces that problem immediately. There's a whole other bunch of stuff that print management software can do, but for me, that's the biggest one, is being able to control when you're printing on time, when you actually need it, and at the printer that you're standing closest to. Next is document management software. Document management has been around for a long time. You've probably heard the words mentioned many times if you've been in business for the last 30 years. Document management has changed a little over time. In the old kind of way of looking at it, you had scanning into a bucket on a server somewhere, and that's it. It just sat there. That's the old school of document management. The new school of document management is actually intelligently using the information that's trapped in those pieces of paper and using them in the workflow in your business to make your business more agile. I could sit here and talk for another half an hour on that alone. The advantage that can be had from gleaning information from a printed document and injecting it into a digital workflow somewhere in your business is leaps and bounds. The amount of time you can save, the amount of agility you can gain, it's actually mind-blowing. Digital filing system, perfect example. Again, with intelligent file naming, this is a whole lot easier these days. The document gets scanned, it looks at what it is, and then files it according to what it is, what date's on there, all of that kind of stuff. You can even name the file based on what it is that's read off the file. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that's really cool around that kind of thing area as well. Automation, I touched on that before with accounts payable and that kind of stuff. You can do all kinds of things with automation, and I'm going to touch on this a little bit later, but it's not about removing humans from the workflow and having machines do all of the work. I'll get back to that in a second, but it can give you such an advantage when it comes to, again, I use this because it's just the easiest one to mention, accounts payable processes. Something where you can just basically stand at your machine, scan the document in, and then have it do the rest for you. And all you have to do is sit at your machine, at your computer, you get a little notification saying, there's an invoice here that needs approval. You open up the invoice, it's already electronic, all of the information's there, the line items, everything's there. You just go, yes, I approve that. No, I don't approve that. Even if there's another way you can do it, you can say if it's an invoice above a certain amount of money, and that needs to go to a specific person for approval, you can build all of that into the automation workflow as well. There's a lot that can be done around that. Cloud storage. I wanted to touch on this one because a lot of people are scared of cloud storage. They think that everyone's watched movies where there's hackers. Everyone's watched movies where people are breaking into systems and stealing information and all that kind of stuff. I'm here to tell you that you should not be scared of the cloud. For the simple fact that if you build a server and you stick it in your office somewhere, it looks more secure because you can physically wrap your arms around it and give it a hug. You can stand next to it and say, that's mine and that's where all of my information is. But I can guarantee you that the cloud facilities where these servers are held are far more secure than anything that anybody could build and stick in the corner of an office somewhere, on the most part. Unless you spend a hell of a lot of money to do it yourself, it's actually far more secure inside a facility. So what is stopping you? What is stopping you from going paperless? Why haven't you done that yet? This is something that I come across a lot when I'm out and about. Here's the main points that I always see. I'm not a technical wizard. I get that. Totally understandable, and hardly anybody is. In the older kind of view, they were very hard to set up, they were hard to maintain, and you needed to have a dedicated person on site to kind of help you do all of that. Those days are long gone. You don't need that anymore. It's a lot easier, it's a lot simpler, and the knowledge in the industry is far greater than what it used to be, and having somebody who will help you and talk you through it and walk you through it is a big advantage. So you being not a technical wizard is, sure, it's a stumbling block, but it's not a showstopper. It's too expensive. Fair enough. Some of them are expensive. Some solutions are very expensive. Some of them aren't. And they're all horses for courses. Which one is right for you though? You don't need to spend $40,000 to make this work. You know, you can get away for it fairly cheaply and still achieve everything that you need to achieve. The way I look at it is, what's the cost? It's going to cost you a little bit up front, sure, but what are you saving? Time, money, sanity, the amount of mucking around that's involved with just finding bits of paper, that all comes into it. This is another one. This is the way we've always done things. Sure. Everything's always the way we've done things, but if we never changed, we wouldn't have calculators, we wouldn't have computers, we wouldn't have email, we wouldn't have all of the things that make our business more efficient now if we didn't actually change from the way that we do things. So I understand there's quite a culture shift when it comes to processing documents and moving documents in a different way through your business, but it's time to come into the 21st century. It needs to change, because if you're not doing it, your competitors are doing it, and they're going to be more agile than you in the marketplace. That is a fact. And the robots are going to steal my job. This is what I mentioned before. This is a good one. All of these solutions are about what's more important. Having something done by a machine, or having something done by a machine that helps you do other things that are more important than spending time doing menial tasks such as manual data entry, that kind of stuff. For me, it's not about a robot stealing your job. It's about using a machine to augment your job and let you do bigger things. That's really what it's all about. To me, that's the biggest selling point out of all of it. We're not asking you to let a machine just steal your job. We're asking you to do more stuff that you need to do to increase your business. That's really what it comes down to. Anyway, that's it from me. I know I tried to squeeze a lot in there in this short time frame as possible. It's a big subject. I completely understand that, and yeah, I hope it was delivered with a little bit of, definitely with passion, because I love this subject, as you can probably tell. But yeah, it's something that you should be doing. It's not a matter of if, it's not a matter of when, it's a matter of you have to. It's just the way that things need to go. Anyway, thanks for listening. I think I'm fielding questions right now, if I'm led to believe. But anyway, thank you very much, and I'll see you guys hopefully somewhere out there in the field. Bye.
Thank you, Chris. That was great, and we appreciate your time contributing to the growth of small business in Port Stephens. Chris will be available to answer any further questions over in the meeting hub. Just pop over and you can catch up with him at a time that's convenient to you. We will see you soon in the next session. Thank you. you.